Okay, hello everyone. So in this video, and this is a very important video in my opinion, I'm going to talk about the wars between religions, or in this case denominations, or explaining you why there's some these wars, or these wars of ideas and doctrines, and why they never seem to come to the same conclusion that there's one truth. Okay, so, or to the one truth, because they mingle two things here that may create confusion. First, spiritual interpretation, which is the true interpretation of the Bible, and second, the literal carnal-minded interpretation, which is what helps bringing confusion, because when you mingle those together, just create confusion. But of course, most of the interpretation will be carnal, because they do not know, or they do not perceive that God wants you to know something that is not by letter, that is not literal. And so I will give you two examples of two big denominations of the Christian supposed faith. Okay, so basically we have here Catholicism, very well known, and it's the biggest religion in the world, the biggest denomination in the world, I believe. And UPCI, which is United Pentecostal Church International, which I was part of in 2019 to 2021. And so I have some insight of this denomination, even Catholicism, because it's very popular in my country, and it's just the biggest one, on Christian faith, supposed faith. So one thing I wanted to show you is, so as we know, Catholicism has the Trinity faith, or the Trinity doctrine, the sprinkle baptism doctrine, and the saved by grace even though a sinner doctrine. So the UPCI has the oneness doctrine, which is basically Jesus is the name of the Father and of the Son, but the Son was a literal man on earth, which I do not believe. So the oneness actually makes sense in a way that, okay, there's the Son and the Father share the same name, okay? But who is the Son? That's the problem with oneness, with the UPCI religion. Immersion on baptism is also very carnal-minded, as the sprinkle baptism, because they still think water can save them, or the water, that there's the holy water, which is physical water. That's a lie. Okay, no physical water is holy, because holiness comes from spiritual interpretation, nothing to do with whatever, like with this world. So, and the Trinity is also a lie, because there's no three persons of God. It just makes no sense. God is one. He's a spirit, by the way. So the Father is the Spirit. It's all about titles of the same God, the same person of God. It's not about three persons of a machine called God. God is not a machine with three slots. So let's see. And the doctrine of UPCI is also saved by grace, if endured till the end without sin. The challenge, which I call the challenge of the flesh, as I call it. Okay, so it's already here. Okay, so basically this what this means is, you're saved, but by grace, but you still need to do the carnal works, which is don't fornicate, don't do this, don't do that, you should do this, you should do this and that. Okay, so basically commandments, okay, sorry, of man, commands of man. And in Catholicism it says saved by grace even though a sinner. So this is just like this idea of, oh, poor me, I'm just a sinner, but I'm saved by grace, thank Jesus. Okay, so this is all also not very, spiritual, because we ought to be do works of of the Spirit. We are not called to do vain works, vain carnal works, but we are called to do spiritual works, and we are called to be holy spiritually. So we cannot be holy in the flesh, but we can be holy in terms of wisdom of God, knowing the wisdom of God. Okay? And so here it says, saved by grace even though a sinner. I mean, we can be, this makes sense if we take the sinner as a carnal flesh sinner, because I lie, I fornicate, I do this, but with the flesh and not in the spirit, because I can fornicate with other gods or with other doctrines, and then that's the spiritual fornication and not the carnal, the worldly fornication. Okay, so it's all about the perspective of what you see spiritual or carnal minded. And it's interesting because when you take, the New Testament, some verse, for example, verse X, you take. So this is what causes wars between religions. So basically, when you take New Testament verse X as carnal-minded, this is an example of the color of a carnal-minded verse. And the Catholicism takes that same verse with a spiritual mind, which is the correct one. So then this creates confusion, because one believes one thing, the other person in the same verse believes the other thing. And so the other way around could happen. So in the verse Z, for example, it could be the other way around, And this is what I believe Jesus means, or God means, in the Bible when He says, "They parted my garments," okay, because they have divided the truth and mingled together, or whatever. Like they have divided the truth, into parts. Parted my garments, and so I'm not sure which verse it is, but I know it's a verse. And so, yeah, like it's just that. And the Old Testament is the most carnal-minded collection of books of the Bible, because they just can't see how they are metaphors and parables. No, God doesn't need to say every time it's a parable, it's a parable. He doesn't need to do that. Okay. And so, yeah, that's it. Basically, the wars against every denomination is all about, how you take the Bible, on some verses, and sprinkling baptism, immersion baptism, but the thing is, mostly they all have carnal minded, okay, and sometimes it's the same kind of idea, but just changed a bit. So it's the same lie, but changed a bit to create even more confusion, and to make people stuck in that carnal-minded mindness, just stuck on that mind, which is not the mind of Christ, which is not the mind of God, which is not, the mind of the Spirit. Okay? So I will expound on all these matters in future videos, but I think this video was very important to set up some things here with two denominations I know very well. But this could be with Orthodox, or with another Protestant religion or denomination. But I just chose these two because it's the ones I dominate the best, or know the best. And yeah, that's it for now.